Good morning. It's Friday the 13th of November. Our top story this morning, one of the country's most notorious serial killers, Peter Sutcliffe, known as the Yorkshire Ripper, has died.
Sutcliffe, who was 74 years old, had been suffering from COVID-19, where he's said to have refused treatment. He also had a number of underlying health issues, including heart problems and diabetes. Danny Savage reports on his life.
He was one of the most prolific killers of the 20th century. Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper.
We knew that we were dealing with a monster because of what he was doing. He would get behind them and hit them at the back of the head, a real whack.
For 6 years, women across a large part of northern England lived in fear. A serial killer was on the loose. No woman walking alone at night was safe. From 1975 until 1980, 13 women were killed by Sutcliffe, and he tried to murder several others.
We went down the path on the field at the back of the house, which we later discovered was where she was found. Thankfully it was dark and we were spared discovering Mum's body.
Richard McCann's mother was the first victim. He was just 5 years old when she died. It devastated his young life, and for a long time he wanted revenge against Sutcliffe for the murder of his 28-year-old mum.
As a young teenager, I can remember with Sonia, my sister, we planned, we discussed her contacting him, befriending him, changing her name, and then eventually going in to visit him, and then she was going to attack him. That was the thoughts we had, and that's how angry we were back then.
This was in Halifax, where 19-year-old bank clerk Josephine Whittaker was killed. Murder scenes were scattered across Yorkshire and Manchester.
I'm Jack. I see you are still having no luck catching me.
The police inquiry was famously led down a blind alley by hoax tapes from the man dubbed Wearside Jack. He sent letters and tapes taunting the investigating officers.
I have the greatest respect for you, George.
It led to the conclusion that Peter Sutcliffe wasn't their man.
There was one young detective, he said, I've interviewed a man today and he fits the description, the photo fit description. He's got bushy hair, bushy beard, and he's got a gap in his teeth, and he's a lorry driver. And one of the top table officers said, is he a Geordie? And, no. What's his name? He said, Peter Sutcliffe. Now listen, boys, Peter Sutcliffe is not the Yorkshire Ripper.
So Sutcliffe carried on killing, although he was interviewed on numerous occasions. Colleagues at the haulage firm where he worked knew and used to joke about it.
You know, he was nicknamed the Ripper, and he used to answer to that sometimes. So it was, you know, it's rather sort of, it's sad now, isn't it?
Bizarrely, he was finally caught after being linked to a car with stolen number plates. Weapons were found, and in early 1981, he confessed. That led to these extraordinary scenes in Dewsbury as the public turned out to voice their disgust. Sutcliffe was jailed for life. Anger, hatred and obsession were deemed the motives for his crimes. Few, if any, will mourn the passing of a man who destroyed so many lives. Danny Savage, BBC News, West Yorkshire.